Antonio, thank you so much for joining me today and helping us with our 5-day equity challenge. As you know, we are talking with local community leaders who are leaders in the education field about the importance of equity. And as the Dean of Naugatuck Valley Community College Danbury campus, we're really excited to have you join us this morning and talk to us a little bit about how all of this plays out in the higher education field. And so before we get started, if you could please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming the Dean at NVCC's Danbury campus.
Sure. Thank you, first and foremost. It's a great opportunity. I really appreciate it. My journey is an interesting journey. Been in higher education since 2004. Started off working down in the Bronx as an academic advisor. And just through hard work and doing the best I can to move up in the world, I moved through for-profit, nonprofit, private schools, and essentially ended up here in Naugatuck Valley Community College. Been in this role again for 7 years. It's been my longest tenured position in higher education. I have a very unique position where I do a lot of work with the Waterbury campus and also with administration, but also do a lot of work within the community.
That's excellent. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. You've had quite a journey. So data shows that racial and ethnic diversity comes with a host of benefits at all levels of education and in the workforce, including greater productivity, innovation, and cultural competency. What are higher education institutions like NVCC doing to create inclusive environments for your diverse student body?
Sure. So we have a number of things going on here, specifically in Naugatuck Valley. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of what's called the Center of Racial Dialogue and Communal Transformation. We started that out of a grant opportunity through the Kellogg Foundation. We did not win the grant, but the president at the time and our current CEO felt that it's a very important center that we create at the college. So we partnered with the Social Justice Series just to provide opportunities for the Naugatuck Valley community and also our neighboring communities within our 22-town service region to participate in communal transformation and having those difficult conversations centered around race and equity and diversity and inclusion. We try to do our best to inform the student body and also faculty and our administrators to give everyone an equal voice. So the conversations are not easy, but they're necessary, and we have to continue to do so. In terms of the student body, the students are doing a great job in terms of being more involved and more active, even in a virtual environment. We encourage students to create their own clubs and organizations and give them their voice. So we have a Black Student Union, we have a Social Justice Series. Faculty are advising these students as well in order to get their voices heard. So Naugatuck Valley is doing a great job in terms of making sure the students have an outlet that does not include retaliations or any microaggressions towards them, and we give them that platform to have that freedom of speech and to express their ideas and concerns in an area that it's of course done respectfully and with keeping progress in mind.
That's great. Our community colleges are cornerstones of higher education and play such an important role in preparing a skilled workforce and supporting a thriving economy. But increasingly, we're seeing dropout rates on the rise. So I'm curious to know, what is NVCC doing, or what are other institutions doing to help retain students, to help them remain engaged and improve success outcomes for them?
So this is a question that I'm asked a lot, and coming from an environment where I grew up, where school is not necessarily pushed onto you post high school. I personally was not prepared to enter a four-year institution. If I can go back, I probably would go the community college route because they're more of a hands-on approach in terms of what students need. So fast forward to where I'm at now in my position, I can see what the benefits are being in a community college. There's more interactive advising, there's more intrusive advising, there's personal counseling, there's faculty and there's staff that are very dedicated to what the students' needs are. The academic advising, for example, we literally sit down with the student and go step by step, in terms of what your degree look like, what your outcomes will look like once you graduate from here. What are the prospects after, completing your 2-year degree or certificate? But there are some situations that are more severe than others. And of course, that contributes to high dropout rates. But I think the difference here is that we try to meet the students halfway. So we try to give them, that chance where they can meet with an advisor and have a conversation with a faculty member or have a conversation with a counselor to try to pinpoint what those issues are that are causing these things to take place. So our outreach is different in terms of what I've interacted with in previous institutions. There's more interaction with students. There's more of a welcoming environment for students to return. The pandemic certainly impacted a lot of the progress that we were making. We actually have a program called Doing Our Part, which is paying a role in retention today. And it's a college-wide effort where we're doing more of an aggressive stance in terms of students retaining at the college. So what that would include is more one-on-one interaction with the students, more engaging activities for the students, more interaction within the classrooms, doing more of aggressive outreach to get the students to stay at the college. So, when a new student comes in, they just don't get a schedule and move out the door. We set them up with all of the services that are available to the community. We have our community resources page on our website. We connect them between here and Waterbury. Although we do have 2 institutions, it really is just one institution. And the faculty and the staff in Waterbury will do the same thing for students here in Danbury. But to answer your question, in terms of, with dropout rates and what we're doing to support students here, I think it's a very, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry. It's a very concerted effort to let students know that someone is here to support them. And it's not just, just to save face or just to say it. It really is a true atmosphere where you have everyone who is dedicated to student success.
That's terrific. That's terrific. I know the pandemic certainly has had a lasting impact on graduation rates, on employment, on many things. A recent Pew Research Center analysis of the federal labor data found that about 31% of 2020 graduates were unemployed last fall, which was well above the 22% from 2019 graduates. Certainly the pandemic had a lot to do with that, but outside of the pandemic, what do you think is the root cause of some of that high unemployment for recent grads? And what can be done to change that, either at the community level, at the advocacy level, at the institutional level? What can we do to change that?
I think students have to take advantage of the services that are available at the colleges. And what I mean by that is, having those conversations with career services, and trying to map out what their careers are going to look like post-graduation. We have students here that have been, at the institution part-time, and they've been attending, with a certain expectation that they can graduate in 2 years. We also have full-time students that, with the expectation, it's a 2-year degree, I should be here for 2 years, but sometimes it takes longer. So I think there's a misconception of what time actually is. So what I mean by that is when you actually map out, for certain students, once you map out a certain amount of time, it gives them concrete expectations. We can map out what your career is going to look like, what your academic career is going to look like. Mm-hmm. And then, depending on the major, we encourage them to, meet with their faculty advisors, because these are people that are coming from the industry. These are people that know the industry. And these are professionals that know what it's like to work in the field and work in the industry. So we encourage students to, reach out to them and have those conversations about what the real world is like. So for example, we have a very, very successful nursing program. but it's a very rigorous program. And we have students that apply, in the hundreds that apply to the program, and there's only a select few that make it. But it's a reason why it's so selective, because the program has successful outcomes. So when a student comes here stating that they want to be a nurse, or they want to go into physical therapy, or they want to do radiology, these are programs that we have very direct and specific conversations about what the expectations are and what's to look for once you get to that point, once you get into the program. So these students in these programs specifically, they meet with real physical therapists, people who have been in the field, and people who are professionals in the field that know what it's like and know what the students are going to expect. So when the students go through this program, they have a chance to go right into the field directly after graduation. But I think ultimately, when you have students who come into college that don't have a plan, like myself, for example, it took me a very long time to figure out what it is that I wanted to do. And it sounds very childish and it sounds weird when I ask students, but I ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it could be an 18-year-old graduating from Danbury High School, or it could be, someone in their mid-30s coming back to, redo their skills all over again, or gain another, degree or another certificate. So I think it's a matter of understanding what it is that students' needs are and meeting them there and helping them get to that next point in their lives. I think, again, for me, it took me a longer time, but these students don't have time. And a lot of the students want to finish tomorrow and they just can't. So it's that, what's the next step, and making sure they're taking the right steps to get to graduation. And graduation can mean different things to different people, and what I mean by that is that you have students that can come out of here with a certificate and right into a career, where a certificate can only take a year or 6 months or 24 hours. In the case of our security guard certificate, they can get to work right away. So I think it's a matter of setting up a plan for students and helping them understand how to get to that next step, and setting real expectations, and we've had difficult conversations with students where, one might say, I want to be a doctor. Okay, let's see how we're going to get there. Or we have a student that, just wants to get a degree and then they're going to figure it out afterwards. Let's figure out how we're going to do that. So, I think, and this goes back to my point about retention. I think it's having that conversation with the students at the beginning, and throughout their time at the college, where there's a plan and they're sticking to that plan and we're helping them get to the end goal. So I think, overall, once you get out of college, life is going to throw you lemons all the time. It's about being prepared to handle those issues and those setbacks and moving forward and making your adjustments to be successful.
That's excellent. Thank you. Parting thoughts for new graduates coming out of NVCC or any other institution. What should they be focusing on to help their chances of getting hired directly out of college, of going into a successful career path? What are some of those parting words of advice?
I say network as much as you can. And I say that because when I graduated college, I didn't know what networking meant. Networking and using the contacts that you already have and leveraging those relationships. If you have someone that's in the field that you're considering going into, have a conversation with that person, have a cup of coffee, have a sit down, set up 15 minutes, and have those conversations about what life is like being in your shoes. I think that, again, in higher education, I get a chance to meet with so many different people, inside and outside the institution, that, I personally like to hear people talk. I like to see where their perspectives are coming from, because chances are they either struggle to get to where they are, or they took a certain path that guided them to where they are today. But I think students need to understand that, you just don't wake up one day and, all right, I'm the dean of a college. It took time to get here. And when I graduated from college, this was not on my radar, not at all, not by any means. I didn't come out of school thinking I'm going to be a dean. Once I got into the field, I saw people and I saw the roles that they were in, and I kind of guided my own path to try to get there. But I did ask those questions, and I stumbled a couple times, but you dust yourself off, you get back up, you move on. But I think there shouldn't be that reluctance to ask those questions. and technology, speaking about technology, it makes things easier to get in contact with people. Shoot an email to someone, reach out and text someone if you have their phone number, if it's a personal connection, and just have those conversations about what it's like, and network and try to understand what it means to get to where you are. Because your path is going to be different. It might not be the same exact path. It might not be linear, but it'll get to where you're going. So I think ultimately just learn how to network, learn how to swallow your pride, ask the questions, and build those relationships that are going to help you throughout your life.
Excellent. Antonio, thank you so much for your time today and for your words of wisdom. Grateful to have you a part of this event. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.